Hey everyone, my name is Alex. I like to make things, and today I'm going to make the counterpart to one of my first videos, the ancient Hellan fossilmon, Armaldo. First, let's set a few goals. I want to include a variety of deep ocean Pokemon in the scene. I'd like the base to resemble a sandy sea floor, and lastly, I'd like the Anorith I add to float above the base. Let's get started. I found some files for Armaldo and Anorith online from this artist on cgtrader.com. I linked their page down below. They have a lot of high quality Pokemon models with great details, and I really like to use them. All they need is a couple armatures and new poses, and they're good to go. Now, Anorith is based on an Anomalocaris from the Cambrian period, one of the largest marine predators at the time, resulting in its evolution, Armaldo, an Anomalocaris mixed with a kaiju-like monster, giving it these two large legs, now allowing it to be amphibious and hunt on land. But for this statue, I'd like to keep it underwater. The idea? Have a family of dangerous predators hunting for their next meal. Like always, I start with one of these round wooden discs from the hobby store. Then it'll get covered with XPS foam so I can start on the terrain. I'm keeping everything relatively flat to start. I plan on adding a few small rocks and ocean life around, but it'll generally stay smooth. I had already printed out a few of the Pokemon, which was super helpful with planning the layout of the terrain. I traced out Armaldo's feet for reference and got to work. I wanted to add a little bit of elevation, so I carved away at the foam below Armaldo's claws, using my hot wire cutter. With this little bit carved away, it gave me an idea to make a small rock-like cave for a Pokemon to hide in. It was at this point the rest of the Pokemon prints were ready, and they turned out pretty good, without a lot of issues. These were printed on one of my old resin printers, which sadly has kicked the bucket by this point. With that being said, this is probably a good time to mention, I recorded this footage for this project about a year ago. I had full intentions on editing this and continuing these videos last year, but ran into some motivation issues. Because of that, and this statue being older, I'm trying to remember everything I did to put this project together, so please bear with me. But thanks for sticking around so far. At this point, I use my hot cutting tool to clean up some details and make a place for Armaldo to stand. Fits great. Next up is adding the terrain paste. I've seen a few other creators on here use a similar method, and I found it works really well. Even adding small adjustments to the ratios of plaster and water helps get this mixture into the small areas. I'm mixing up some black acrylic paint in there to give it a little bit of a darker tone, and start applying it to the foam. After the base is covered in terrain paste, I go ahead and sprinkle on a couple rocks, and moving some of the larger ones around into some strategic spots with my tweezers. After the terrain paste had dried, I started playing around with the Pokemon and testing out where I want them to go on the base. Last thing before we start painting, I want to add some sea life around the ocean floor attached to these small rocks. I, of course, am talking about some small coral and sponges. For these, I'm using Warbler. It's a thermoplastic usually used for cosplay. I have a bunch leftover scraps from the past projects, which made it easy to use. It's moldable and tacky once you apply heat. This made it super simple to attach the individual tube sponges together, and even stick these table corals to the rocks. I'm using my sculpting tools to blend it into the base, and then it's complete. Now on to the painting. I was excited for this step because this was the first time I got to use my new airbrush and spray booth. I prepped the base by taping off the exposed wood. I did this with the intention to stain the exposed base a darker color. I then started airbrushing the base with a black primer. After the base was primed, I moved on to the Pokemon, starting with Armaldo. I covered the model head to tail with the same black primer, followed by a dark teal color as a base. Next up are the kids, and by that I mean the Anorith. I started by mixing up the appropriate color and muted green with a dash of blue, then I airbrushed it on. It was after this I decided I wanted to add a shiny Pokemon, and they're much more common these days, so why not make it one of the Anorith? I mixed up a dull orange color and airbrushed that on top. It turned out to be a bit too dark, but I think it looks a little bit more like the original shiny. It did, however, turn out to be a great base color for our next Pokemon, Binacle. These guys are based on goose barnacles and will look great hiding in the rocks. I dulled that orange down to a brown for our next Pokemon, Kabuto, based on a trilobite and a horseshoe crab. And lastly, our bright purple Shelder, based on a scallop or a clam. Once all the models were primed, I went back to the base to airbrush on a sandy yellow primer and some neutral gray for the sand and rocks. While I clean up my workstation, I'd like to take this time to thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. It's all free to do, and it really helps boost my content to more people. After my last video, I reached 1,000 subscribers. Welcome, and thank you so much. I'm working hard to continue this series, and hearing everyone's favorite Pokemon and ideas for statues have really kept me inspired. What's something you'd like to see me make next? Let me know down below. Thanks again, now on to the painting. Along with my new airbrush, I also wanted to try out some model paints. I got some basic colors that I needed from this project from the hobby store. I chose Citadel Colors. These are their base colors. I saw some pretty good things about these paints before I got them, but can confirm they work pretty well. I usually hate painting just because of thin layers and having to do multiple coats, but with these, the paints dried super fast, super opaque. 10 out of 10 for me. As you might have noticed, I tend to jump around from model to model a lot. I'm usually working in chunks of colors. Painting all the same color across all the models at the same time helps keep my brushes clean, keeps my workstation organized, and you know, it's easy to do. Like, why finish one thing at a time when you can work on multiple things at once? Alright, this was my favorite part. The yellow paint went on so cleanly, without any brush strokes or like splotchiness or having to do multiple layers on it. It went on so clean. It was beautiful. Like, yellow and white and very light colors are hard to paint on, or I've had difficulties painting them on, having to do multiple layers or getting splotchiness in them. I'm just saying, I really like these paints. They turned out really great. Here I'm giving the Binacle their little pinpricked eyes using this metal tool. I'm also using this on the Shelder as well. When I decided to make Anorith, I knew its eyes would be a problem. My thought was to shrink the model's eyes, paint them black, and then add a layer of clear UV resin around them. And that's what I did. Sadly, it didn't turn out as well as I would have hoped, but that's why we try these new ideas and new things. We learn from them, and we come up with new ways of doing them in the future. But this way, it actually kind of looks more like Anomalocaris' compound eyes. What do you guys think? Next up was adding in the whites of Armaldo's eyes, then adding in the pupils with a small brush. I also took this time to clean up some of the paint around the mouth, which I completely forgot to mention. The original file had its mouth closed. So I cut open a slit using the Boolean tool in Blender, added a sphere for the tongue, and then you had a mouth. I did forget to model in teeth. These I added in later with polymer clay. Then I sealed off its eyes using some UV resin. I did this on all the Pokemon models. With all the models complete, it's time to finish painting the base. Starting with the tube sponges, coating them in a light orange, then continuing on to the table coral, attempting to add a light gradient from pink to red, mostly ending up in the latter. With the painting done, I start to cover the base with a thin coat of Mod Podge. This will add as the glue that will hold down all the sand that I pour on top of it. After pouring all the sand, I darken some of the areas with some watered down light browns and dry brushed on some white onto the rocks. After sealing off everything with a clear coat, I peeled off the tape that I put on the base and stained it with a dark brown. I have these clear acrylic rods from a leftover project. These will get glued into the base and be used to hold up our swimming anorith. Before they got glued down, I positioned our Maldo and glued him down to the base. The rods then got glued down with a foam-safe super glue, and then I added a regular super glue on top of them to start gluing down the anorith. Once all the anorith are in place, I glued down the rest of the Pokemon, hiding shelter in this small cave. Kabuto is sitting out in the open, and Binacle is trying their hardest to blend into these tube sponges. And with that, I call the statue complete. Except now that it's a year later, I realize that Armaldo's teeth are not these 2 fangs that I put in, but actually these 3 sharp triangles. So I swapped those out. He looks nice and goofy now. Anyways, on to the beauty shots. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this all the way through, I really appreciate you. I'll be posting finished shots and stills from the making of process of each statue on my ArtStation, Instagram, and wherever I link down below. Be sure to check it out. I'm thankful for you sticking around as I figure out my workflow and continue to produce these videos. Like I said, this statue was made over a year ago, and I was really hoping to continue these videos, but lost my motivation. Hopefully we can keep this momentum going. The next Pokemon statue is almost complete, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and leave a nice comment. It's all free to do, and it's the best way to support me and my channel. Also be sure to leave a comment of your favorite Pokemon down below. Might help inspire my next video. Now without further ado, let's add these ancient predators to our Statue-Dex and wrap up this video. Be sure to check out the rest of my Statue-Dex by clicking on this playlist right here, and subscribe to keep updated on my next upload. Until next time, keep creating.